Is my sound coming out of here?
You sound amazing.
I
You
hate
sound great.
when it doesn't hook up and then I like listen later and it's like all echoey. I'm like,
No, it sounds perfect. It sounds
okay.
perfect. So, how did you get started in the cell phone repair industry?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I was kind of thrown into the industry back around 2009. So I had my daughter in 2008. Me and my child's father decided to split, but we wanted to be self-employed. And so he started selling things in flea markets and he kind of relocated out of the state and I started selling in flea markets. Fast forward to about 2010, 2011, he's got multiple locations and he's selling everything like little, I don't know if you remember that like MP4s where you put the memory card in and like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
how
like
you, yeah, okay. And then like CDs and phones, like old, like this is like when phones were like just, you know what I mean? Like really, and I don't really know because I really wasn't into technology. So like even my memory if like YouTube was out, I don't even remember. And so he had all these locations. He had them in different states and he had 3 locations in New Orleans. And he's like, I really need your help running these businesses, you know? And so I relocated to New Orleans in
and this is
2011.
after you guys split?
Yeah, after we split,
Wow.
we were like
Wow,
best
that's
friends.
cool.
Yeah, we had been friends forever. He was so important to me. And so he relocated me. He moved me right across the street from his house. So like, here's his apartment, here's my apartment. So my daughter could like run back and forth, you know? And she was 3 at the time. And so I have a bookkeeping business, which a lot of people don't know, but my first business was a bookkeeping business. And so he was running this company under the table and he was having issues with the IRS. And I was like, you have got to stop running this company under the table. Like, they're not going to believe you're shopping and you're spending thousands of dollars from China, you know, buying all of this product and tablets and all of that. And that's exactly what happened. So they kept coming down on him and they like froze all of his accounts. And they had done it so many times that I think it just kind of got to him, you know. And so he committed suicide in 11/11/11. So I was not married to him, but since I had his only child and he didn't have anybody else for anything to go to and he didn't have like a will or anything, I was left with all of these things like the businesses, and he had some vans that he would like move stuff around with, you know. And so I was really thrown into it. I was actually not a salesperson. I was not talkative. Like, to be honest, I'm actually kind of like, what do they call this kind of people when they're like, don't like to talk to people too much?
Introverted? You're a little bit more
I'm
introverted?
introverted. So
I don't believe that. Knowing
I
you now, I
swear
don't
to
believe
you,
that.
if you could hear, like when I moved to New Orleans, like the next week he had me at like his busiest store. And literally like he was so angry because I just couldn't like talk. I just like was so shy, you know. And like we had this huge blow up argument in front of all these other vendors, you know, and he's like, you need to talk, you need to sell. And I'm like, I can't, you know. And so it's funny because I always say I was forced to be an extrovert. Like it was no longer optional for me to just stay quiet. And so, yeah, he really coached me on how to sell. You know, he could sell like a broken pencil to a pencil maker. You know, he's like that kind of person. And the funny thing is that's where my daughter gets all of her. She's very talkative and she's not scared to talk to anybody. And she got that from me, but she got that from him too. So I was thrown into these locations. Now, if I would have known what I know now and I know then, I would have kept them or I would have sold them in one big brand package because they were extremely lucrative. I mean, there were some locations we would sell 200-300 tablets a weekend. We were selling like used devices, used just all types of things, you know. And but at the time, my mind just wasn't exposed enough to what it was that I had to do. You know, there was locations in Houston and New Orleans and Georgia and South Carolina. And, you know, I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, this is so much, you know. And so when
You
he
went from 3 to more, or
yeah, so yes. So he had I can't remember exactly the number, but I know there was 3 specific ones in New Orleans. So I closed those. New Orleans terrified me. There was a lot of crime. The places where he had so these were flea market stores. It was only open on the weekends. It was a really awesome business and highly profitable with high traffic. But I didn't feel comfortable in those spaces. I was like, I don't know how to do this, like he had all of this respect and I just didn't know how to go in and take it over. So what I did is I opened more locations. I opened the one in Houston, South Carolina, West Virginia, Indianapolis. So like what I would do is I'd go to flea markets and find people that were doing well, but not selling electronics, and then say, hey, I will stock you. I will teach you how to sell it. You just keep a percentage of all the sales. You don't have to buy inventory or anything like that. So it worked really, really well. But it was a lot of movement around different locations. And in between there, I had a location in Georgia in the Pendergrass Flea Market. And I was doing a ton of sales out of there. Like I was just blown away how profitable it was. But I thought that was normal. So I was very confused. I thought retail, I was like, wow, if a flea market is like this, imagine what a retail store can do. I was not like super ready when I switched to retail. Because when I opened my first retail, I was like, where's all the traffic? You know what I mean? Like, now I got to pay for ads and I got to do all these things. And I was like, wait a second, with the flea market, I had to do none of that. Traffic was already provided. You know what I mean? And so it kind of all happened really quickly, but within the time of me figuring out that I didn't want to live in New Orleans, I had taken my daughter to like a preschool and it had like barbed wire fencing. And I was like, no, I can't raise my kid like this. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I'm going to go either to Georgia or Houston. So I was like, which store is doing best and where do I want to live? And I chose Georgia. And I'm really glad that I chose Georgia because it just worked out really well. I love Georgia. And so I relocated, I closed all of that. I focused on the Georgia store. And because, like I said, I would go around and talk to people about selling devices and I would stock them. I would get people constantly saying the devices are broken, we can't fix them, people are coming back, we're sending them to the cell phone guy, he's saying don't fix them because it costs like $25 online, here we are selling the tablets for 200. Like this is before Walmart had tablets, so this is like way back, and so I was like, man, I really got to start fixing these. So I talked to Lee, who's my vendor. I mean, I still deal with him, I've known him forever, and I was like, I need to fix these tablets. And so I started fixing, and that went really quick. Like from fixing tablets and then starting phones was like a month. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot turn this work away. You know what I mean? Because I was referring everything out.
What year is this at this point? Is this like 12,
This
15?
is like 2012, like the end of 2012. And
Like
so
iPhone 4S, iPhone
yeah,
5.
it went really fast. It was like, and I wish I would have documented it because of where I am now. But I never thought in a million years that I would have the visibility that I do now. So I wish I would have documented it better because I kind of just, I'm dealing with a suicide, which is now you have to remember. So like
As a single mom.
As a single mom, a lot of people don't know this, but my child's father and I had went out. So we were trying to like think about getting back together. And so, we had went out and stayed in hotel. We had like separate rooms side by side. Well, he actually hung himself with me locked outside the room. So I had to get a cleaning lady to open the door. And when she opened the door, I seen him hang in there. So it was extremely traumatic. Like I tried to get him he like hung himself with his belt. I like tried to get him off of the belt. People would not help me. It was extremely traumatic experience because when the paramedics came, they also thought he was still breathing, but he hung himself on his knees. And when he went down so hard that he broke the apple thing that men have. And so even though they could feel like when they took the belt off, they could like with their little machines, the paramedics, they could catch like a heart rate. Like the lady was like on top of him, like, you know what I mean? Trying to get him to come back. But so like there for a split second, she's like, I have a heartbeat, and then it's like, no, he's gone. Like 10 minutes, not even 5 minutes later, you know what I mean? It was very, very traumatic. So that year or two after was kind of like a blur to me. I just know I moved very quickly. And then my shops that I was working with asked me to teach them. So I was like, okay, I'll make Nikki's tablet training. And that's what he did.
What were the shops called?
They were flea markets. So they were.
Did they have a name? Like, did the booths have a name or anything?
Well, I don't quite remember because it didn't really work that way. You worked with the owner. I didn't really care what their name was. They just had spaces where maybe they sold clothes or makeup or purses, you know what I mean? And then I would put the product in there and they would have like a display and then they would start selling them.
Something
Is
you may not know about me is that
yeah.
I got my start in a flea market as well. When I was
What?
11, I had a flea market actually with my mom. We pretty much like split it, and
Okay.
we didn't do electronics at the time, but we bought basically antiques and we would fix them up and then sell them out of the booth. So
I
I
love
made
it.
my first money to like buy the parts that I ended up using for my cell phone repair business from the antique business or the yard selling and flea market business. So I
It's
completely understand what you mean. That's why I'm
Yeah,
asking
and
the
you
details.
know, so if nobody's ever, they're like, oh, she doesn't know the name. I'm like, but if you've ever been in a market and you've sold in a market, people don't go by business names.
We were really rare. So we did have a name. We called ours, I think it was like the lemon dish. That was
Oh,
the name
that's
of our
cute.
little booth. But like a lot, I get what you mean. A lot of people, you just walk into the booth, you don't even realize that the booth might be owned by someone. A lot
Yeah.
of times they think the flea market is all like just one person, when in reality it's hundreds of little vendors. So
Well, the flea markets I was in were huge, massive indoor air conditioned flea markets. I never went to an outdoor market because I had tried it and it wasn't very good. Because before I would even approach someone, I would go to that area and set up myself and say,
mm,
is this market a good community for me? Because my main target audience was the Hispanic community because they paid cash, they had a lot of kids, usually, you know, not to like stereotype anybody, but you know, like usually they just bought differently than people that were generally raised with American purchasing standards. So
yeah.
like American purchasing standards are like you go to a mall or you go to a store in a shopping center and you buy devices. You don't buy devices at a flea market. But when you're dealing with people that come from a different culture, flea markets are malls. So they're raised to buy everything from flea markets, from clothes to food to electronics. So that was my target market. And so I would go to these flea markets and I would sell myself. I would go out of town. I would maybe bring an employee with me because I did have employees. Sometimes I left them there for a couple of weeks and paid their hotel and had them check it out and sell and see how it went. And then I would find someone to approach. I would always find out who is like the person, you know what I mean, at the
Yeah, yeah,
market.
of
How
course.
you got those like,
There's always a few.
yeah, like the cool people that have been there a long time and they really know how to sell. Like those are the people that I would approach. And so really quickly, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to build some sort of training because my background, I own a bookkeeping company. Well, I still do. But my mentor who helped me open my first business also owned a training center for Microsoft. So I learned a ton about training, like how to build curriculum, how to, you know, learning styles and what people can actually retain versus what you're teaching them. Like I learned a lot. So training and bookkeeping are my core background. And so I was like, I can definitely do a training. All I need to do is learn it and I can replicate the process. Not a problem. And I can train people with my eyes closed. You know what I mean? And so I created Nikki's tablet training. And the certificate was pink. And it was just terrible because I realized it was mainly men that were taking the class. And so I did not like the certificate. And so I eventually rebranded to CellBotics, started training people. It happened so fast with CellBotics. I think the industry was missing a legitimate, well, at that time you had other schools, and I won't say their name, not to point them out, but there was, you know, there was
There
some,
were no schools, Nicole. There were no
yeah,
real
there were,
schools. Like, no, there was not a CellBotics until you came.
yeah, there was not a CellBotics, but the way that I designed CellBotics was to be a legitimate school, not where we had interest. So I wasn't ever like recommending a vendor based on a kickback they give me, or I was not a vendor who was training and then only taught you how to buy from us. Like we truly want to introduce you to the industry with no strings attached. And that's what we do to this day. You know
And
what
it
I
was
mean?
in person when you started too, right?
In person,
Because
100% in person.
a lot of courses like were online. Like I had a cell phone repair course for a period. It was online. I know some of the other people that I've worked with, they had in-person courses, but it would be like at the guy's repair shop. A little bit different.
Exactly. And I think that's what we were missing. And the schools that were out there were kind of, they were wholesalers teaching. So they kind of taught in a way that benefited them versus introducing someone into the industry. And that's what I wanted to do. So I actually took some classes and I took them as if I knew nothing. I showed up to the class. completely acted ignorant. I didn't know anything about screws. Because was my target audience, like my target student was someone who knew nothing, who looked at this industry and said, I want to own a business there, or I want to be a technician in this industry. And then I wanted to properly help them enter it. And so I paid for classes. I went and I acted like I knew nothing. And sometimes I sat there and I said, wow, these people don't need this and they won't retain it.
Mm.
You're teaching them too much. You can't teach someone who doesn't know how to remove a screw, micro soldering, and all the things in between in 5 days. You're taking their money and they're not going to retain it. It is really a separate thing. And I never pursued micro soldering because I knew I would be taking advantage of people. Because one, most importantly, they wouldn't retain it. Two, they can't implement it because they can't even get a screen off without having issues. How are they going to jump to micro soldering within the same week? It's impossible. And so, after seeing all of this and I seen people's excitement, and I kind of felt like my heart felt for them, because I'm like, wow, you're going to leave here and your first customer, you're going to struggle because they didn't spend enough time teaching you the core fundamentals, removing the charge port, testing the charge port, testing the battery, taking the screen out. And we didn't even have like all the tools we do right now. You know what I mean? This is like iPhone 4, you know what I mean? iPhone 3, and so I was like, I felt kind of bad for them because they were like super excited. I remember one guy when I was in a class, he was just so pumped. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, we spent a day on taking glass off of Note 3s. And I'm like, this is great, but you spent an hour on how to tear the phones down. He's not going to be able to replicate that. He's going to make a lot of mistakes, you know what I mean? And break things. And once a new person breaks something, it is extremely discouraging for them. We spend a lot of time informing students in class that you're going to break something. Just don't stop. Just know that you need to fix it. You need to fix your mistake. If that's replacing the device, that's what you do for the customer. But you have to continue. Breaking it does not mean that you're bad. It's a learning curve. And even the best technicians still sometimes can damage something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so CellBotics, once I rebranded to CellBotics, it was just like immediate students. My first class was like one guy, and it was a Groupon, and he paid like $200 for the week. And I was just like, oh my gosh, people pay for this, Like, I remember thinking like, I made this course and I put all this effort and I bought all this equipment and these devices. And I'm like, wow, okay, somebody is actually interested in paying me to learn this. And so I just was like super excited. And then I had my second student, and then it was just like, bam, it was just like full classes. And I just improved and brought on trainers that were technical, but also kind and patient. So that's how I got into it. And then like, probably what year are we in? 2024? Like 2016, 17, I was like, I need to be visible. There's no more avoiding it. Like, I have got to put my face online. I've seen all these people in the Facebook groups talking and I'm like, why am I not out there? I see these YouTube channels and all this stuff. And so that's when I begun my plan to just put my face online as much as possible until I got tired of it. And then I would still do more of it. And that's how I got known. I just put myself out there. And I was always willing to work with someone on a project. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to connect with people and like network and create relationships. That was it. I mean, people would come to me and be like, hey, I'm working on this. I got, okay, how can I help? Well, what would we want? I don't want anything. I just want to create a relationship with you and network and show what I can do. Because my mentor, Debbie Clark, I worked for her for 2 years for almost free. Like, she'd give me gas money and stuff like that. But
Is this Microsoft training person?
Yeah, this is like training center, bookkeeping. And I was 17 when I met her, and I would go to her house, and we would work on her businesses at night and her office. I would do filing. And while I was doing all of that, she's talking to me, and I never got like paid, but I got paid in knowledge. And so I had like this core belief that if you want to succeed, sometimes you have to give of yourself without receiving. You know what I mean? And so, and I still practice that to today. I'm like, when I really want to work with someone, I'm like, There's nothing there. I just want to work with you, you know? And so, of course, now my time is a lot more limited, but you know, I
I mean, I
can't run
think
around
I
doing
think
things.
it's really important to highlight that because especially in our industry, like if you really wanted to get started, that's a great way. Obviously, training is important but not
Mhm,
everybody has the money to pay. Like if
mhm,
you're, day zero and know nothing, like it's great to find someone that's willing to work with you and almost just work for free. I
mhm.
think people like in America just look so down upon that, but I've done that personally in certain aspects of the business, just offered my time and assistance to people just so I could learn from whatever knowledge they had to have, even outside of the cell phone repair industry. And I think people just look at that the wrong way, like, oh, my time's so valuable. And it's like, if it's so valuable, then why don't you know the information, right?
Exactly. And I can't, Jonathan, it's really sad because I've had some people come to me and say, I want to work with you. And then it's like, okay, let's talk about it. And I've had people that have, and I'm not saying that you have to be known or you have to have money or you have to have this or that to be valuable, but I'm saying don't come to me when I have worked my tail, okay, to get where I'm at, and then sit in front of me and tell me, oh, no, no, you'll pay me and I'm co-branding with you. Your brand, you have not worked or built your brand. Okay. If you want to co-brand with me, you need to come with some clout. You know what I mean? Like, because I have worked my tail. But don't come to me. You just made a logo on Canva a week ago. And you think that I'm going to co-brand with you. You have no proven strategy. You have no proof of concept. You haven't grown your brand. You haven't yourself made yourself a brand, because that takes time and expertise and hard work. It's not easy because, like, when I started putting myself out there, people would laugh at me. They would send me nasty messages. All the little spiteful stuff you see in the groups was even worse back then. They were just nasty to
I can
me.
imagine the DMs. They were probably pretty rough.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't even tell you the number of things that I have been told when I was putting myself online. And sometimes I'd just cry. I would just sit there and just cry. Like, why are people so mean? Like, I'm telling my opinion. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm just out here putting information. And sometimes I would just feel so overwhelmed, like, just give up. This isn't for you. But you know me, I don't give up. So I sometimes have a down moments, but I just keep going. And so I was like, I'm going to get through this. And now it's way different. And it got to where I built such good relationships with people that if someone would comment negatively, it's like they would just get attacked. You know what I mean? Like if they were like, oh, shut up, go away, and then it was just like, people were like, what? Because I started to train so many technicians and they're all in these groups and they're out here and they're growing their brands. I mean, I've got students, got 50 locations. I've got students that didn't do anything with their training, and it's like, no, she actually helped me. Like, you can't sit here and tell her to go away or shut up. You know what I mean? Like, she actually did help me. And so it felt nice when people started to kind of stick up for me and I didn't have to like ask for it. You know what I mean? And that really helped me.
I can imagine there was a lot of pushback in the early days too, because like
Mhm.
this is an industry of a lot of people that are very prideful because a lot of shop owners really kind of made it on their own without any training or without any help. And like when you start introducing like, hey, these are best practices and these are certifications and these are training courses that we recommend, I feel like those particular people feel attacked, even though they shouldn't.
They
And so
do.
I could see how you could kind of have been in their mind a threat, even though that's such a silly way of looking at indie industry, but
Yeah.
I could see how that happened.
Yeah, it was more of, and the industry has always been kind to me. It's just in the beginning, I also think I was a woman. It's a male dominated industry, but I don't ever throw that as a token because there's so many, I mean, there's thousands of men that I work with and they're respectful to me. They never downplayed me or anything. So I don't like to throw that out there, but I do feel like in the beginning, there was like Jessa had a lot of visibility, but there wasn't a ton of females out there that were
No,
really in the
I don't
industry.
think I can name another one other than you two.
Right. So I kind of expected it, and it was okay. I dealt with it. I got through it, and here I am now.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
Mhm. Yeah.
CellBotics is definitely, obviously, really good at branding. You should
Yeah.
definitely get kudos for that because you
Thanks.
guys have some of the best branding in our industry. And it's kind of funny. I'll occasionally see someone kind of copy the way you guys are branding or marketing yourself, and
Yeah.
I think that's
Hey.
if you're copying it, that's the best form of flattery, right?
Exactly. I love it. Yeah. Mhm. No
So
problem.
what were some of like tell me some of like the toughest things that you had to do with CellBotics? Like, was creating the training course the hardest part, or getting people to join the course? Like,
Mm.
what were some of the struggles you had there?
Um, Joining the course, not really, because once we started to get out there and then the reviews, I mean, we had like a 5 stars, on Google, which is rare for a school. And once we started to get that, that wasn't a problem. I would say um, keeping up to date with the content was
Yeah.
always a struggle because things were always changing. And then knowing what to teach them that they could retain and actually use versus scare them, because you can give someone too much information and then they leave and they're like scatterbrained and they're like, oh my god, I can't do this, when they can. It just comes in waves, and you have to take the information in waves, and you have to learn, and you have to take your time, you know what I mean? And I don't think I've had any big struggles that I can think off the top of my head when it comes to dealing with individuals that wanted to start a business. Where I have struggled is working with companies, and it's really disheartening because I've always wanted to work with larger corporations. Like when Radio Shack started their repair program, or Office Depot, T-Mobile, like yes, they did reach out to me and I did bid on it. I didn't get it. And then those programs failed. And I looked and I said, and I just felt so bad, where someone else may think, they just failed. No. And I will go on record with this. The companies that helped them start it didn't put enough effort and care behind launching it. You cannot just teach people with 3 videos how to fix things and send them out into the world. It goes for if you're a one person or if you're a billion-dollar company. And that has probably been the hardest thing to date. I still have that issue. Where I want to work with these larger companies. I can actually genuinely help them implement a successful repair program. It's going to take more than what someone else is telling you. If they're just saying, oh yeah, we'll just train your guys with a couple videos and then you're good to go. I know what it takes to make a successful technician. And it's like, I just wish I could get a chance to do that, and I haven't. And so I think that was my biggest struggle, is seeing these larger companies try and fail and try and fail. And I'm like, oh, would you just work with me? You know what I mean? Like, would you just give me a chance? I can help you make your program successful, but it never worked out. I think now the larger carriers are kind of giving up on that. I feel like a couple of years ago, they were like gun ho. Like you've seen everyone trying to come out with a repair program fail. Office Depot, fail. Radio Shack, fail. T-Mobile, that came in and went out. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just wish I would have been able to been on one of those and actually show that they can be successful at it. So that's probably the biggest thing, is companies. We also do Chromebook repair. And I had a pretty large client a couple of years ago that went bankrupt. And so trying to get more clients, I do struggle with that too. So it's just corporations. Individuals have no issue because I don't know why. I don't know if it's the reviews. I don't know if it's the structure of our website or the content. But it's been the companies that have been the biggest problem. And then training. For some reason, they just want to have training all in-house. They think that they can hire someone that can come in and just do it all. And then they're not thinking, well, what happens when I lose that person? We've leaned on them so much, whereas CellBotics has a structured training platform, a learning management system, an LMS that we manage. We're not going anywhere unless you cancel our contract. You can have your in-house trainer, but let them utilize our tools and let us help them keep the content updated. Let us help them edit the content. Let us help them understand what pieces from within your internal processes need to be on the LMS. And then if you lose that trainer, you pop in another one, we're going to work right with them and catch them up. You never have to lose that. And I think that some companies don't see that. They just see, well, we'll just get one employee and let them manage it all. And then they don't think when they lose someone. We have had companies hire us as consultants to come in when they've lost like a training manager, some of them to health issues, passing away, just randomly. Is this something, oh gosh, he passed away. Well, now we've got all this training. We don't understand what they were doing with it. We've got all these technicians and everything. And so those have been exciting opportunities to work with companies to help them have a more way that something that they can fall back on, that they know that's always going to be there.
Hmm. We had an employee poached when the T-Mobile thing was going on, and he actually, I think it was Chicago that he went. It was somewhere
Mhm,
in the Midwest where he went for. He basically was like, I don't think he was the top guy training, but he was one of the people that was over their program training. And ironically, he came back like maybe 6 months later because the program didn't work out, and he obviously couldn't stand it. And he told me that the main reason that their program failed was like they weren't thinking like a repair shop. They were
mhm,
trying to run their repair program through their retail environment in
mhm.
corporate stores, and you and me both can imagine how that would have went. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine trying to fix a customer's phone in front of them in the same way that
Mhm.
you do when you're selling them a phone. And it's like,
It's not.
also, yeah, and it's two different types of people, right? The extroverted, super talkative individual that's the sales rep at the T-Mobile corporate store is probably not going to be the best technician. And if he is a good technician, he's going to get fired because they're going to say, well, why are you making no sales? And why are you so quiet? And why are you in the corner trying to fix people's stuff? So to me, it's like, I feel like a lot of the big companies try to force this industry to be the way they want it to be, not recognizing that the constraints of labor for
Yes.
one, and also just that's just not how any other repair network ever is made. I mean,
And I will tell you, I know for a fact, uh, okay, my experience in training, I know 100% you cannot just take someone who knows everything and have them teach someone.
mm,
That's not how training is successful. You have to find someone that knows, okay, but is a trainer, can connect with the individual, because learning is not just information spit out to you. If it was, YouTube would be very, very successful at training. You know what I mean? But people still struggle with things because they need connection. It's not just about following steps. You know what I mean? They need connection. They need to know that they can ask the right questions. And so you sure you can go far and wide and find the best technicians. It doesn't mean they're trainers. Also, training is a process, which it's not a one-time thing. You don't sit people down for a week and then just let them go. There is follow-up training, there's close watching, there's making sure that there's someone that they can watch more of or watch them. And you know what I mean? Like, that there's a whole process to it. I would have never approached it like that. It would have been totally different. It would have been identifying the right personality for a technician, having the right space for them to repair in, having the correct training rollout. You know what I mean? It just would have been very different, because that is the issue. It was the technician side of it. It's not that it failed because there's not a need for repair or that they don't have access to the customers. It's the way they rolled out and implemented and put and turned on all of these thousands of technicians.
yeah, I mean, they were trying to be like the dealership model where they
Mhm.
buy and sell and fix, but they didn't want to have a repair department.
Yep.
You can't, if you go to a car dealership and they don't have a garage, well, probably don't fix cars.
Right.
If they're trying to fix them in the showroom, I mean, you can imagine how that's going to go over with customers. So I hope whoever had that idea at corporate T-Mobile, I hope they lost their job or got
Right.
demoted or something, because that, I
Yeah.
mean, could you imagine presenting that? Like, just logically imagine in the corporate boardroom, they're sitting there with a PowerPoint presentation and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to start fixing these devices in front of customers, in front of like." I hope those corporate board members knew that like that's kind of what T-Mobile customers think a bad repair shop looks like. They're like,
Exactly.
"Hey, my friend went to this place in the mall that they fix it right there in front of you. They have no tech desk, they have no training. He probably never fixed that phone before and he ruined it." That's exactly what T-Mobile was trying to replicate.
Yeah, and I talked to them for a couple of months and I was just adamant. Like, when I would hear what they were proposing, I'm like, no, this is not going to work. You can't roll it out this way. And I think it's because my proposal took a little longer. You know what I mean? And they were looking for quick,
Mm.
and I was like, but you want it to last, you know what I mean? And I'm not a strong negotiator. I'm just more like, this is what it is, you know what I mean? And so I feel like sometimes I lose deals just because I'm not good at like the back and forth negotiations, you know what I mean? And so being partnered with Brian, Brad, and Jeremy has helped me immensely because I could bring them onto a meeting and say, this is the deal, because they know me now. They know that I'm just so like just transparent. Like, I'm not going to try to negotiate with you. I don't know how to play the negotiating game, you know? And so they'll come in and they'll actually take over that piece. And they have helped me a lot when dealing with negotiating company things, you know? So that's one benefit of partnering with them. There's tons of benefits, but I wish I would have had them on that, because I probably would have walked away with the deal. You know what I mean?
You know, it's sad. It's sad to me that like a lot of the bigger corporations in our industry, the electronic industry, feel the need to have so much control. Like
Mhm.
that fundamentally to me, at least from my perspective, is one of the biggest problems. Because if you look at the automotive industry, I mean, there is so much flexibility with body shops. I mean, I laugh when you hear the OEMs in our industry, you know, scoff at used parts. Oh, you're
I
using a
know.
used screen. Have you ever taken your car to a body shop? Where do you think they're getting the fender from?
I
I mean,
know.
you
I'm
think
just like,
every part's new?
I use that as an example in our stores, because like when we used to say it's aftermarket part, and then like, oh, after I said, but when you go to Napa, is that a Ford alternator you're buying? You know what I mean?
Can someone define OEM oil? Like, I mean, there's different brands of oil. I mean, technically, your Mobile One is like, I mean, it's OEM grade, but it's still an aftermarket brand. It's not Ford that's making the oil. And it's like this
Right.
line of OEM and aftermarket is super. I just think with the T-Mobile partnership in particular, anybody that's tried to do repair. I mean, look at Best Buy; they lost the Samsung partnership, or they claim they dropped it, but
Yeah.
you know, other people would say otherwise. It's like you've got to give the flexibility and control of whoever's doing the repairs to be able to make decisions. There has to obviously be documentation and proof of what's going on, but you can't hold everybody in the industry like this. And
Yeah.
you've got to at least look at other industries like the auto repair world and be like, hey, look, 80 to 90% of out of warranty repairs in the auto world are done by independent shops. You
Mhm.
think it's going to be any different in our industry?
Yeah.
No way. It's a tough business to run a repair shop, and quite frankly, I don't really think it's something that most corporations can succeed at.
Yeah, and I, you know, you know, I'm a big believer that if it's for me, I'm going to get it. And so I'm like, maybe it just wasn't for me. Maybe it wasn't meant to be successful for our industry. Maybe there's a reason behind that, you know, because like Office Depot, you know, I didn't get the contract with them to launch it either. But afterwards, the man who was running it out of Office Depot reached out to me with a huge part list, like millions of parts. And he's like, we need to get these parts. We're ending the program. I'm like, why did you end the program? I'm like, you just started it. It wasn't successful. We're replacing too many devices. They're breaking too many. I'm like, well, the training was not right. Well, we know we're not talking about that anymore. We just need to get rid of these parts. I was like, okay, well, send me the parts list. The prices were like 3 times more than a normal going rate at a vendor. So they had bought it through the company that helped them implement the program, which I don't know what company that is. And they had bought them at a very high premium and didn't know that. And I'm like, man, I can't. There's nobody going to buy these parts. What do you mean? These are good parts. I mean, well, they're good parts, but they're 3 times as much going rate than what we can get them at, like, you know, a phone LCD parts, or, you know, injured gadgets or wholesale gadget parts. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
My industry isn't going to buy them, so I'm not even going to try, because I'm going to look ridiculous putting this price list out there. You know, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I, you know, I never heard back from him. I said, I'm sorry to tell you, but if this is the prices you paid, you were I forget what word I used, but it was charged way too much. You know what I mean? Somebody marked up really high on you because you guys didn't know what you were doing. You know?
I always find it so fascinating. Like that story highlights to me how businesses like Office Depot or others, they think that like retail's the only, they're so used to a traditional retail environment and they try to make everything fit into that.
Yeah.
And it can't. And clearly, I mean, they're closing down stores, Staples closing down stores. Lots of these traditional retail businesses are going out of business, but service is huge right now.
Yeah.
Like personally, I think if I was going to start a business, being in anything service related is where it's at going forward. And it'll be funny one day to be the opposite, where the service businesses are the ones that are booming and they're getting into retail more, where the retail businesses that didn't do service eventually died off.
I know that'll be so funny, but in all, I do feel bad for the companies. There's someone behind there that had a goal and a vision and it didn't work out. And I totally understand that. You know what I mean? And it's just sad that they have employees that make decisions based on something they know nothing about, and they base it on the feeling or the negotiating power of the company they're talking to versus saying who really has proven experience in doing this and who should we really be working with, instead of just having someone that maybe has a better PowerPoint than me. You know what I mean? Like because they're employees, and
Or they were really passionate about repair, because I'm sure there were some people in those companies
yeah,
that just wanted to fix things and make the world a better
exactly.
place.
Yeah, it depends on who they brought in front of them at the meeting and the way they presented it. And I know that that's not like my strong side. So, I get it. I just, but maybe it wasn't meant to work out, because imagine if those companies did have successful repair programs, the competition, and you know what I mean? We have a large industry, but I'm sure that the independents wouldn't have loved it. You know what I mean?
What the problem was? They didn't come to the Gadget Repair Expo.
There you
That
go.
was the problem. They needed to come to a Gadget Repair Expo. And on
Right,
that
why
note,
don't you just partner with local shops and create some sort of system where the devices are fixed by them? You know what I mean?
ding, 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 like every other repair industry is. You have independent contractors that are
Yeah,
little shop owners all over the country that do the work, and
exactly.
there's a review system and documentation and everything. The
Simple
incentives are proper, right? Like if you're the local repair shop guy, your incentive is to take care of your community.
Yeah.
And I think that's why independent repair across all sectors is obviously always the more dominant player,
Mm-hmm.
at least when it comes to customer to customer interactions.
Yeah.
But on the Gadget Repair Expo note, I know there's a big conference coming up. You want to
Yes,
tell us a little bit about it?
May 7th and 8th, 2025 is when, because when we're recording this. So every year we go to a different city, and this year we're in Miami. This conference, we're on number 5. So it's myself, Jeremy Kwiatkowski, Brad Broom, and Brian Ahern, who are like part owners in it. And, when it started, it was just like, we need an expo for our industry. And they started it. They did the first show without me. I mean, I was helping, my helper side. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to help. And the second year they brought me on as a partner. So there goes Telia offering your services where it can get you. Because I worked my tail off on the first one.
Which was great, by the way. I was there at that one.
Yeah. And it benefited so many people. It was like the feedback that we got after the first show, the guys were like, we got to do this every year. Well, we did a second one in the same year because it was just such high demand, because there's no show that's specifically focused on the repair industry. You have shows that have pieces of repair, and I respect their efforts in that, right? But it's not like a shop owner can't go there and be like hugely benefited from the show. You know what I mean? They may get some things, but like with the Gadget Repair Expo, if you're entering the industry and never known anything about entering the industry, you want to own a business, if you have 300 locations, you're going to get something out of this show. And it's specifically tailored to the repair industry. And we spend 8 months out of a year planning it. So the first year when we did 2, it was like, okay, wait a second, can't do that. It's like really hard.
COVID? Was that during COVID? The first show? What year was that?
Was
it 2020?
I think it was 2021. No, it was 22. Because we did 2,
okay.
22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So it was 2022.
Because there was a huge turnout. And I just remember I had the thought in my head. I was like, man, 4 or 5 years ago, that was COVID.
Yeah.
That was a big turnout for COVID. But anyway, sorry, continue.
So we decided to do, okay, 1 show a year, but high effort into pulling together the right things to benefit shops. So one of my main jobs is, marketing, of course, right? Making sure that we're going live and I'm pulling people onto the lives. But secondly is speakers and demos. And I take a lot of pride in this. This is like, I am every day scouring the internet, YouTube, groups, looking for people who are successful at what they do. They have something to add to bring value to the business owners. And it doesn't have to just be repair. Like this year, I've brought on a new speaker who's not in our industry, but he is like a guru on business credit and building business credit and taking loans and managing those loans. And that's a topic I feel like our owners need to hear. It's a part of running a business. You know what I mean? How to use debt to your benefit. So even though it is a show focused on repair, we attack all sides, the business owner and the technician. And so the show this year is going to be massive because we have the international CGC competition, which has, instead of doing their own in the United States, has reached out and wanted to do it at the Gadget Repair Expo. And that is huge for us. So technicians can come and compete not only in our micro soldering competition and our screen replacement competition, but they can compete in the CGC World Competition and then actually go to China and compete on behalf of America and be the United States representative in the competition in China on a full paid trip. So it's like crazy, you know? So we have at the show, we have the competitions. This year we have 4 competitions and the prizes are amazing. Like for changing a screen, it's $1,500 cash starting. The micro soldering, the GRE micro soldering, $2,500 cash starting. And the CGC is a full paid trip, 14-day trip to China where you'll compete in the first 5 days. All the other days, they're going to have you on tours of China. They're going to take you to the factories where they make parts. They're going to show you about Chinese culture. It's like a full planned trip. And
a
then
tech's dream, the tech's ultimate dream, like a true technician's ultimate dream.
True technician's ultimate dream trip. Yeah. And then we have, they are also doing their refurbishing competition, which starts at $1,000 cash winnings. So you can come compete. And then also we have our demos. And so demos are where we focus on try to bring in new technology. If anybody, I'm going to say, if anybody from Peloton watches this, or if you know anybody with Peloton, I have been trying to get someone at Peloton for the last 2 years to bring out a Peloton bike and do a demo on it because Peloton technicians are in need. I do know it is a need that the company does not have filled yet. And I am doing my darnest to try to connect with the company. I have not had any success, but we try to bring on new things that could be fixed. Like this year, we brought on e-bikes. So scooters and e-bikes, there's going to be a 1-hour demo on how to repair them, how to get contracts with companies that have them, like the ones that are around your city, you know, and then also individuals. And I'm not talking scooters from Walmart. I'm talking $3,000-$4,000 e-bikes that people are using day to day like a vehicle, you know. So how to fix them, how to get your customers. Then we have the drone repair demo and the TV repair demo and refurbishing and micro soldering. And then we have Google AdWords. So there'll be an hour spent reviewing how to get past the rejections that you're getting from the Google ads when you try to set up your account and they're rejecting you. There's going to be an hour spent on that. And so these demos are more than just like somebody up there just tinkering. It's really valuable information that the owners can take back or bring your technicians. Let them sit in on it too. If you want to reward a good employee, bring them to the show because it's going to make them feel like a part of something and make them learn and just feel like, wow, I'm really, you know what I mean? I'm really a part of a bigger industry. It's not just a job where I'm clocking in and out. And then lastly, of course, we have our exhibitors. We have over 70 exhibitors this year. And then we have our cocktail party, which is going to have like stormtroopers and Yoda. And we're going to have LED robots. So the big, tall robots. And we have a laser light show. And that's included all with the $99 ticket. And it's a 2-day event. So I'm super excited.
Yeah. And I would put a caveat on everything you've said, which was that this is like the ultimate repair related show. Because there's so many other expos that I've been to, and I hear a lot of feedback from other shop owners, and they're like, yeah, I'm just not really going to, I'm not going to say any names, but that particular expo, because it's like part repair, but they kind of just tacked repair on to really get people to go. And it's like, I got there and didn't get any value. I can assure you Gadget Repair Expo is definitely not like that at all. This
not
is
like that.
pretty much only repair related if for the most part. Like if you're not in the electronics repair industry, I guess you could see some value, but this is really meant for people that are running a repair shop or wanting to run a repair shop.
Yeah, and I will tell you, Jonathan, when I started to get kind of really known in the industry, I had to be careful because I was posting where I was going. And I remember one year, I'm not going to say the show because I love all these shows, but I know why I go. Some people don't know why they go. They go because they see someone else going. And that happened a lot to me in the beginning. When I started to post where I was going, I was at a show, and literally these two shop owners just come up to me like, why are you here? And I'm like, well, I'm here for this because I wanted to work with corporations, and I wanted to, I have a whole Chromebook repair department. I have 30 technicians. A lot of people don't know that, and I'm like, that's why I'm here, and they're like, well, you posted you were going, and we thought it was for shops, and we came, and there's nothing here for us, as we can't work with these people. And I'm like, oh, I got to be careful where I post where I'm going. And so I would now, when I make a post where I'm going, I put why I'm going. You know what I mean? And what the show is focused on, because my following is a lot of retail shop owners, and they think, oh gosh, Nicole's going there, maybe there's a good opportunity for me, and they'll make a trip. You know what I mean? It's just like when people buy from people on Facebook because you're friends with them. Well, you're a friend, he's a friend on your Facebook, so I thought it was legitimate. Well, no, I've got 7,000 friends. I don't know a quarter of them. You know what I mean? And so I had to be very careful, because I felt so bad for those shop owners that went, because I made all of these posts about these shows, and they weren't actually about retail repair. And like you said, they kind of dabble repair. And I understand the efforts of that, and I respect it. But this show is not like that. This is a show that every business owner should go to every year to stay up to date. We have amazing speakers. It's a really good show. I'm super excited for the Miami show.
And networking with people. Like, as a repair shop owner, it may not be to get a big Google Chromebook contract, but it may be just to like, hey, I need a guy that can do an HDMI port because I don't currently do soldering in my shop, or I need a refurbing guy, or I need a vendor that sells this particular thing. And I think you'll probably get that value at GRE.
And then just like, you never know who you're talking to. I've got some of my largest clients at the GRE, and I did not know who I was speaking to until I created a relationship there with them at the show. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I own 200 locations. And the reason I came to talk to you was for them. Like, what?
Right.
And so you could be sitting down eating and talking to a random person at the show, and you have, 20 locations and they have 50, and all of a sudden you're exchanging valuable information with each other. Or maybe you have one location and somebody has 10, and you're learning something. Or, you know what I mean? Maybe you're new to the industry and you get exposed to all these people that are doing all these amazing things, So
Yeah, pro tip is, whenever you go to an expo, I have at my desk here, I have this. These are all business cards that I've collected over the years from people at expos, and I'll go back and I'll send them an email, follow them on LinkedIn. That's happened to me a few times. I'll get on LinkedIn and I'll go to followers, request a DM or whatever, and I'm like, oh wow, I had no clue you worked at that OEM in that position. Huh.
Exactly. And cards, I always recommend cards. I know people are all in the digital card thing, but I'm going to tell you, the number one issue with digital cards is that you can forget who you saved in your phone. Happens to me all the time. So if you don't remember their name, or you don't put, like, if I do save them on my phone, I'll put GRE in the front, and then a day after the show, when I'm going through, I'll put GRE in my search to pull up all those people. But don't just save people in your phone, because you'll forget that they're there. I love cards because it gives me a physical item to, like, okay, here's all their information. I can follow them. So I also give out cards.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I always forget to bring cards, but I typically try to save them in my phone.
I run out.
So you run out. That means you're good at
pass them out to everybody.
You talked a little bit about Repairs First indirectly. I've been a Repairs First member since it was formed. I know you joined probably like within the first year of it being created. Pitch this to a repair shop owner. Yeah. Why is Repair First valuable to them?
Yeah. So I joined Repairs First within the first month, and I didn't know Brad, and Jeremy at the time, but Brian reached out to me on LinkedIn. Can I have a meeting with you? I'd like to talk to you. And you like me, I always like to connect with people. So I got on a call with him, and he said, this is our association. This is what we do. And, would you like to be a member? And I was like, heck yeah. Because if you look at other industries, there's associations for every industry. And at the time, I'm paying for a bookkeeping association. I'm paying for the whatever, there's like a woman's association for like women entrepreneurs. So it was like, yeah, I can support an association for my industry, and it gives me, I'm getting discounts, which at the time was their main thing, was discounts, right? And I was like, makes total sense. And I could see the future of it, because when I talked to Brian, he gave me a good rundown of the vision, right? And he's really good at explaining that. But for me, why is it important? Repairs First goes out of its way to keep its members on top of everything possible. And a lot of people don't know that. So yes, it's discounts. Okay. The discounts are there mainly to connect you with vendors that you might not have used. Also to help you recover any money that you spent on the $69 subscription. I talked to an owner yesterday. Her name's Floor. She's using just two discounts, and she's already covered the $69. And so she's like, it's a no-brainer for me because I have all these other things that I need to use. But it's also training. So after a year of me working with Jeremy, Brad, and Brian, again, just showing my skills, working with them day in and day out, not wanting anything, just like in support of their vision, they came to me and they made an offer to bring me on as a partner, and like on the board. And so I was like super stoked, because by that time I'm like totally RFA, you know what I mean? I'm just like, this is like so helpful to shops. I just want to be where this is, because I do want to help people. I like to make money. I'm not the one that's like this. I'm not out here. I'm not one of those people that's like, I do everything to help people. I also do it to make money, but I like when I can make money and help people. That's the sweet spot for me. You know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, yes, I'm coming on board. So it's training. So the CellBotics full platform is included. So if you are a shop owner and you've got one shop and you're hiring new people, or if you've got 10 shops and you need a place to sit them down and train them on different tools, or you bring in a new employee and you just want to have them do iPhone screens first, but your lead technician is too busy, and they can't just train them all the fundamentals, like about grounding and all these different things that they need to know before they sit with your lead technician. You can sit them down and have them take a class. Whereas we were selling classes individually in the hundreds per person. It's included at no extra cost, and it's hundreds of pieces of content. Right now we're up over 800 pieces of content, and it's training content. It's not YouTube content.
Yeah.
So I try to stress that to people. It's not,
there's a big difference, because like when you watch a YouTube video as a shop owner, or like I've seen some shops, admittedly, we did it when we first started. Like we just had a list of YouTube videos, and in our onboarding and training online course for all of our employees, we would basically just link to that and they'd have to rewatch it. One thing we learned quickly is like the way that the YouTube content is created is typically for entertainment, and it's not really for training, right? And the RFA content that I've watched, it's like, this is the step 1, 2, 3 process. It's for training. It's for actual learning. They're not trying to sell you, how to repair an HDMI port, so you'll send it to that person. This is actually how you fix it.
Yeah, YouTube content is made for algorithm.
Yeah.
Generally, I know that there are some YouTubers out there that make very good repair content. So I'm not trying to downplay them at all. I'm just saying our content is training. It's real time. Nothing is cut out. If it takes us 10 minutes to do it, guess what? That video is going to be 10 minutes long. You know what I mean? And so we spent a lot of time the first year that it took me to record all of this content. I actually had to re-record it. And because I was not happy with the video quality or the audio. And so it took me about 2 years to make all of this content. And now that, then when RFA and we partnered with them, we just continued to make content. And the RFA goes out and purchases the rights to content that costs money and puts it on the platform and gives it to their members. Micro soldering, screen refurbishing, HDMI ports, everything that you need. And they are constantly, like, we have weekly meetings, and our brainstorming sessions start with, okay, how can we help a shop owner now? What do they need? It's literally the topic of how, Jeremy will say, okay, guys, let's start. What do shop owners need now? What is the next thing? And that's what we talk about every week. And we go out and we start exploring different things and making different contracts. That's how these things happen. Like the new T-Mobile program that we just launched last week, where it's $175 per line if you refer a business. A business owner walks into your shop, they're getting a phone fixed. They fill out the referral form because they're interested in finding out how much a business line is for T-Mobile, and they get approved for 3 lines. You get $175 per line. No questions asked. You didn't have to do anything. those types of things takes a lot of effort on the back end. So RFA is actively out there on the store's behalf, trying to come up with ways. Our main focus is making more money. We always want to figure out ways for shops to make more money, but also secondly is how to streamline and better do what they do now. You know what I mean? And so it's training, it's support. So the masterminds. So we actually host masterminds monthly where shop owners come on and we talk about topics. And I mean, me, myself, I learn. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this was great, you know? But you see shop owners on there sharing different things that they're dealing with and really helping each other. And it's in a mastermind format. So we'll have like a topic in the beginning that we talk about, and then we spend about 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on if everybody wants to stay on and keep talking. And these are really engaging conversations about things that are really affecting the shops. We do social media lives for the vendors. We give a chance for the vendors to really break down what they do and why they do it and the products that they have, so the members can join and actually talk to them and ask questions. And, like we did one with Mark Paul. Yeah, it's Polly, right? Mark Polly. Why would I forget?
Axiom Armor.
I know. Yes. Axiom Armor. Like, I know Mark so well. And so we had one with him yesterday, and members were on, and they were asking questions like, hey, this film didn't cut. Where do I get my credit? And he was able to answer that directly to them, and so not only that, contract review. A lot of the members, we're trying to get the wording out there because some of them, they don't know that we do this, but say that you're going to sign a lease on a new location and you're like, is this lease okay? Of course, we always say we're not attorneys, but you can send the lease in and Jeremy, Brad, and Brian themselves will read the lease. And they will point out.
By the way, they're ex-CPR founders pretty much. So they have, hundreds of store experience. So this is not just a random person reading it. Yeah.
500 locations. I can't wait until you talk to Jeremy. Jeremy is like a mentor to me. Brian, I work with him every day. These guys are absolutely amazing. And I feel like they don't get enough visibility because they're modest. That's what people don't understand. These guys are very modest. Yeah,
they're super humble. You would never know. If you met them, you'd be like, nah, you were the manager. Come on, man.
What did you do? You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just great people. They're real people. And so Jeremy, when he was way back in the days before phone repair was even a thing, he was the first store to start repair. And he started CPR. And he was literally in there painting the stores, and then started franchising. And him, Brad, and Brian and Brad were a part of his team that he hired. And they grew to 500 locations. And then he successfully sold it, which some people can call him stupid for that. But how many people in the world?
Not a lot of people have an exit.
Yes. Okay.
Especially in our industry.
Yes. Grow to 500 locations, have a successful exit, and then be willing to teach other people how to do that. Because Jeremy will get on the phone with you. You don't have to do much to get on the phone with him. If you have questions.
Brian too.
Brian, oh my gosh, Brian will talk to
Brian, even before RFA, he was, I've talked to him numerous times on the phone, and he would just talk with me for an hour randomly. It'd be like, hey, this is a 5-minute call, and we're on the call for an hour and a half.
I absolutely just love Brian. He has a heart of gold, and he wants to help people, and he doesn't care about giving information out. And I always tell people, just get on the call with him. Just pick a 15-minute call because it's going to go longer than that. And you are going to learn so many things, and he's going to help you. If you have a problem, tell him. He will try to find a way to fix it. If he doesn't know how to, he's going to reach out to his connections because he is very well connected, And so when they say review a contract, this isn't guys who say they know how to look at a contract. They have signed hundreds of leases. They have exited leases. They have had to get out of them with an attorney. They have had to do all types of different things with leases. So you can have them review the contract, any contract. If you have a contract for repairing devices or anything like that, you just send it in. Then also Brian does sales training. So if you have a store and you do a monthly sales training and you want to have somebody on as a guest, that's free. Brian will get on there and he'll head up your sales training and he'll motivate your team and help give them some tips on selling. So we do all types of things, and I'm probably missing something. But why should they support it? Well, first off, it's going to cost you nothing if you take advantage of the benefits. Secondly, you have someone else out there constantly looking for what's next and keeping you informed. Whereas you might not always have your eye up to what's going on because you get your head down you're running your business, you're fixing devices, you know what I mean? And so you have someone else on your side that is actually trying to send you information, make sure that you're connecting with other shop owners. If you have technical issues, we have a tech support group, so that's why you should support it, because it does benefit you. The $69 is not like you're losing it. You're going to get it back from the discounts. And then you get all these other things that are going to help your business, and you get partners. I mean, you can literally get on the phone with any of us and talk about issues you're having in your store, and we will try our darndest to we either know the answer, or we will go out with our connections and figure out a way to help you. Even though to you, you may say, well, I'm just one shop, I don't want to bother them. That's not how it works. If you're a member, you're a part of our family, and that's how we're going to, you know what I mean? We're going to make sure that we help you figure it out.
And I'd add one thing to that. The reason that I've always been a part of pretty much every association our industries has is for the main reason of, if you look at the automotive world, the automotive service industries, or particularly, I think it's called the Automotive Service Association, they're super powerful. They have a crap ton of money. And it's because all the independent shops that own automotive repair shops across the country, whether you're doing oil changes or body shops, they've all come together and they support this association. They can then even lobby for them one day. So it's like, if we can really get everybody on board for these associations and see the value of being a team rather than trying to cut each other down, we're one day going to have some pretty powerful associations that can go to bat for us when, OEMs aren't playing right, or, there's legislative things that are going on that don't benefit us. And
I will tell you that we are looking into that. We do want to go more that way. The guys are very well-spoken and opinionated about this. They understand the industry. Like with the Samsung thing. So we were working with Samsung to try to have a way to filter shops into the program and help them. We were not making money from Samsung. We were not charging the shops more. It was simply, we wanted to be a segue where shops could come in, take our little video course on the different things you need, get on a live with a Zoom with us, and then we were going to help them through the process. And if there was questions, we were going to help them. And we were fully prepared to funnel stores to Samsung's program. But we felt like, Samsung put good effort to it, but it just felt like, if you really want to onboard a bunch of stores, you got to be more prepared for the influx of questions and issues that you're going to run into. You know what I mean? And the process has to be a little bit different, so it didn't quite go the way we wanted to, but we definitely want to help the shops find a way to first, hopefully work with OEMs or fight these things that are coming out, you know what I mean? And have a voice. And so it is something that we're looking into. We have mainly focused on the business and the technician side, because, you've got right to repair and all of that. They're up there doing their thing with the legislation and all of that. But, you're right. I mean, associations will grow and morph into things, and hopefully, we can have some impact in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. But everybody's got to band together and see the value in that. I think that's been one of the biggest issues of our industry. We're so fragmented. It's like we're so short-sighted. We see, CPR, U-Break, these are competitors and friends. It's like, guys, there's enough food out there, right? The real problem is not your CPR down the street. It's the Apple that still refuses to sell iPad parts. It's the big insurance companies that refuse to partner with independent service providers. There are way bigger problems and way bigger fish to fry than the guy down the street.
Exactly. And yeah, I would just love to find a path for shops to work with OEMs better than what it is right now.
And I'll be the first to say, as someone who has worked very closely with Samsung, they did not put the resources that are necessary.
Yeah, I don't like
to that program. I'm sorry. I'll gladly say it.
You can say it.
Because, and the reason I'm gladly saying, Nicolle, is because I have close relationships with people that are in the departments at Samsung that were the ones working on this. And it's not like they were just lazy. They would ask for the resources that were necessary, and corporate would say, we don't see the value. Right. So I don't mind saying that the resources were not put there. Because
the people behind it and working on it are great.
100%.
But it failed, and we didn't push it as much as we were. I mean, we were totally gung-ho, because RFA, another arm of RFA, is helping shops meet certain quality. So when we onboard a shop, Brian spends an hour or so with them talking about what parts they use and why, and are they putting LCDs on devices that have OLEDs. And, we vet shops to go on the ACO program. And so this is what we do. We help shops understand why they should do certain quality repair and help them understand how to get into programs like ACO and, T-Mobile or whatever. And so the OEM route was like the next, and we were super prepared and super stoked and just excited to work with Samsung. But it just felt like they just looked at us like we were going to be some sort of referral program. And that was not that. I will not put my name on something where I'm going to send somebody off into the abyss where I told them I was going to help them. If I tell you I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you. And if you've got 10 questions and somebody else has got 10 questions, I'm going to take those 10 questions and answer what I can and what I can't. I need somebody at Samsung to answer me, because I need to respond to them. You know what I mean? And that was the plan, is to kind of accumulate it into one area, help filter out the questions that are actually already out there where people maybe don't read or something like that. And then take what is legitimate issues to Samsung and have somebody that legitimately is going to sit with me and hear about it and let's fix it and help the shops. But I just felt like the interest wasn't there, and we weren't going to launch that and really push it and then have it look bad on us,
Yeah, no, and that was probably the smart call. I wrote a Samsung ISP improvement proposal that listed
Mm.
out, like, I think 9 in total, 3 high priority, mid priority, and low priority tasks
Wow.
that Samsung needed to basically fix in order for that program to be fixed, or work with independents. And I think for those listening that maybe joined the ISP and are caught up somewhere and like getting approved and never went through with it, the main problem with most OEMs, including Samsung, is they've drafted all of these programs to be for tech depots and large corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Even the U-Break partnerships, essentially Samsung is just working with like a warehouse, putting all the parts there and then letting, U-Break or batteries and bulbs deal with the distribution and the parts labeling and all of that. And so they handle like compatibility and the name of the part, and the
Mm-hmm.
franchisee owner is not purchasing directly through the OEM portal. They expected us independents to purchase through the OEM portal, and that's just not. We're not a tech depot. I mean, most repair shops don't even have a dedicated inventory person, let alone someone that can spend an hour, waste an hour to find one part for a
Yeah.
repair they're going to make $50 on. That's just not
100%.
scalable and feasible. And so I think the biggest issue we have in the industry is just getting the OEMs to understand mom and pop shops are not tech depots. And if
Right.
you want your brand to have a successful repair program, I hate to say it, kind of got to think a little bit more like Apple, because they've done a pretty good job at
Mhm.
with the IRP program, making
Yeah.
a program that's mildly successful with independents.
Right. Totally agree. Yeah. So we had our eyes on that, and then RFA also, like, we during the hurricanes, we did a GoFundMe, and we were able to filter some money to some shops their shops were really damaged and they were having an issue paying rent because they couldn't open and stuff. So we do all kinds of things, and we're sitting
I
back
didn't know about that.
always.
Actually, no,
Yeah.
I think I did send an email. I saw one email about that.
Yeah, we went live when we did all the marketing. We collected a good amount of money and then we dispersed it.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, so we're constantly, why you should support us. I mean, we're supporting you. If you utilize the benefits, it will help you. And then if it's to be heard of, we're going to hear about it and let you know first. So like, we are out there actively looking for new programs, deals, vendors, products, systems to bring to a shop. So we've got your back. You don't always have to be looking. You can know that you've got people on your side that are, we're working. RFA is a working business every day. It is not something that we just do once a month or something. Every single day, I spend hours every day working at my computer, me, on RFA. How are we doing this? How are we doing that? When's our next live? What are we going to talk about? What deal can we get? Brian's out negotiating deals with big companies, really fighting for the shops. I mean, Mark yesterday said on the live, well, we only max discount is 10%, but Brian called me and, RFA members are to be worshiped like gods, and we needed to give 15%. I would not doubt Brian said that.
And
So
you
we're
got,
fighting for you.
and there's also great people like moi in
Yes.
RFA that you can connect with.
Yes.
I have had you over for a little bit for an hour, so I don't know how
Okay.
much more time you have. I want to ask 2 more questions.
No, go ahead. I'm fine.
I wanted to ask one, what are a few things that make you excited about this industry's future? And then and the second part of that question is, what are some things that make you really frustrated and that massively need to change? Whether
Yes.
that be with OEMs or us directly or really anybody
Yeah.
in the industry.
So I would say my excitement for the future is okay. So I look at technicians, and this is how we teach our classes, that you're learning a skill set is applicable to any electronic
Very
that's
true.
built. Okay. So if you want to take apart a freaking Roomba, I think you can do it because I fixed a Roomba, okay, without any instruction. I just went and found some little instructions online about what I was looking for, found some pictures, and I was able to fix the Roomba, right? And so what I'm excited for is to see over the next 10 years with robotics and household robotics, what happens with the technicians in the phone industry and how can they add that to their services? You know what I mean? That's why I'm like looking at Peloton. Why can't shops have technicians going out and fixing Pelotons in their community? Why? We can. We possess the skills. We have the know-how. We are a service-based industry. We have the technicians that we just need to give them the right training. And then we can be the ones to service that. Why create a whole new industry of technicians just focused on that electronic when you can tap into the skill set that already exists in phone and tablet technicians, you know what I mean? And so I'm excited for the hardware side of technology and where it's going and how repair shops and technicians are going to be able to tap into that. And then I would say my frustrations with the industry, I would say definitely is the serialization issue. I own my phone. I should be able to get it fixed. But however, I do understand the OEMs because I forget the lady's name, but it was like one of the WISE meetings I was at Samsung, and there was an Apple lady there, and she sat in front of me. She was like, think of it this way. If you designed this lipstick, right? And then they need to get this bottle fixed and they take it to get it fixed. And the person says, well, I have an aftermarket lid. And then you get that aftermarket lid and then you sell this lipstick and that person uses it and the lid gets stuck, it leaks. Do you think they're going to say, well, the previous person I bought it from got it repaired, so that's why it's low quality? Or are they going to look at our brand and say it's low quality? And so when she told me that analogy, I was like, okay, I get it. Because if I designed a remote controller and somebody replaced the button and the button was not good quality, and then the next person buys the remote and then they use it like this is a terrible remote, they'll never buy my brand again because they think it's bad quality. But in reality, it was the repair that was done with a shoddy part. So I do understand that, but I feel like, and I know the ISP program has been relatively good, but I still feel that there's a lot of fear, inability to understand how to join it, affordability, accessibility, a lot of things that need to change. Just make it more easier. We need to fix these electronics. We are electronic waste. I'm blown away when and I don't know any of the statistics, but the amount of waste, phones are looked at as disposable. They are not disposable. The saddest thing to me, like I don't like diamonds. It's the same thing with phones. When you look at where these materials come from and the life that these people live, pulling these materials for us to then say a phone is disposable it's traumatizing to me when I look at it, because I see how these people live and they're digging in dirt and they're living in a hut. You know what I mean? Like, this is not right, and that's like I am very like into like world issues, not politics, but more like people's quality of living really affects me. And so for me, it's like we have got to do better and stop focusing only on sales, because I feel like Apple is only focused on sales. When are we going to sell the new? Can we just like skip a year? Can we just like not do that, and focus on repairing and reuse, because it's a bigger issue than just what it cost. It's people who are pulling these minerals out of our planet and the life that they live in, the low wages and it's just massive, So I feel like for me, we have got to do better. And the OEMs have got to do better at allowing these devices to be repaired instead of replaced on many levels. There's reason why. That's probably my biggest frustration.
You said you didn't know any stats off the top of your head. I'll give you some. There's
Okay, great.
400 million tons, not pounds, tons of e-waste generated per year as of the last stat that I read, which was like a 2023 survey. And I would argue that that's even probably way lower, because the way that these surveys are being conducted, sometimes they're not counting the electronic phone that's just sitting in your drawer. This is what's actually thrown away. like in traditional,
Cool.
garbage dumps. It's a huge problem. That's about, if in equivalent to put that into your mind, it's about 800 laptops per second being thrown away.
It just blows my mind,
It's
that
not sustainable. And so
it's
you're
not.
absolutely right. There's a sustainability component that makes it look really bad, that at the end of the day, I think in the long term, as Europe is doing, we'll see things become more and more circular. Your phone will get more expensive. It's going to become $1,000,
It should.
$2,000.
It should.
But just like a car, you're going to pass it down. You're going to get a new battery in it. You're going to get
Mhm.
it repaired whenever it breaks. You're going to have a body shop or an independent repair shop or franchise store that's going to, swap out the frame whenever it's busted or there gets liquid damage. That's the future of the industry. I 100% agree with you.
And it should be. These phones should not be priced the way they are. The people who are pulling these minerals and doing all of this labor in these other countries need to be paid a fair wage. It is not right what we are doing just so we can have a relatively low cost disposable electronic, which is not disposable. It's like, it's like helium. I can't believe we put helium in balloons in America, because if you understand helium, it's like not a renewable energy, like a gas or whatever. Like diamonds. I mean, I get blown away that people are so adamant about having diamonds when you don't understand where they come from and the life these people live to find these diamonds, And so it's the same thing with phones. I am so excited for the day when the United States takes e-waste more seriously, because but it does really start with the user. There's got to be a better education level and more empathy from American citizens to what it takes, because they can watch this. A lot of American citizens, I'm sorry, are entitled and don't have empathy to what other people are experiencing in the world. We just kind of live in our own we're like horses with these little things on, you know what I mean? And we're living our life and we have all this food and we have all this energy and we have access to all these things. And we don't realize there's a whole world out there that is supplying all of this. It doesn't just show up, and how we affect that, it's a big scale, but I just hope that America starts to take it more serious. And I hope these phones becomes thousands. I hope iPhone is friggin' $5,000 phone, because then repair is more serious. And then we can stop filling up our landfills, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a lot of repair shop owners never think about, you mentioned the price of the phone. They never think about, well, from a customer's perspective, which is, it's not their fault that the government's not taking action at the
Mhm.
end of the day.
Mhm.
The customer looks at the replacement of a screen sometimes on like the lower end Motorola's and Samsung devices, and they see, it happens all the time at our own shop. They'll say, hey, how much is a Samsung A whatever screen replacement? We're like, oh, it's 99 or it's 110, which is pretty low for a screen replacement,
Yeah.
especially on a Samsung. And then they go, well, I can just get another one for, $50 or $100. The customers don't understand that really what's just happening is the carriers are giving you an incentive to switch over, and they're subsidizing the phone costs in order to, get you on their plan, recoup the cost. Little things like that change and go away. Like I've seen there's actually some rules in the US, but it's already this way in the USA, or sorry, the Europe, where you can't sell a phone like that. It has to be the full retail price of the device. Repairability
Good.
scores being displayed at the checkout, so whether that phone on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 is actually repairable. It's
Right.
coming. It's definitely coming.
I would love that, because my heart goes out to these people who are mining these minerals and all of these things. It really I think about it all the time, probably more than I should, but I really hope to see that change roll out here. I think it'll be great for our industry. I think it'll be great for our country. It'll be great for the world. It'll be great for for the landfills. I mean, it would just be great. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. At some point,
Mhm.
it has to. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Nicolle, thank you so much for joining. This has been great. I hope you enjoyed your time with me.
I
Thanks for
have. I
sharing.
always enjoy talking to you. We always have really stimulating, engaging conversation, and that's kind of hard sometimes to find. So I really enjoy it. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing your story. I did not know some of those things you shared about me, especially the flea market thing. That's crazy. Like we have a
Yeah.
little mutual,
Yeah.
backstory there in some ways. So you're a
People
flea
don't even
market.
know that I actually owned like 10 locations, because I don't talk about it a ton, but suicide is a rough topic. Some people, like when I say it, they start crying. And for probably 6 years, when I said it, I would just like bust into tears. So I couldn't tell anybody, you know what I mean? But now
No, I
it's
appreciate your approach because I think you should talk about it. I've had
yeah.
family members that have made that unfortunate choice, and I think the fact that we do make it such a taboo topic only makes it worse. People feel like they can't talk about it when they have those feelings, and it's
Yeah.
normal. I
And I
mean,
think that I just
depression's
want to
real.
say one final thing about that. I think that's where my passion comes from in teaching people how to properly run their business and letting them understand that everybody pays taxes. You can find write-offs, because running the business under the table was where the pressure came from. No one should run their business like that. It seems fun and cute in the beginning. One,
That's
your
a
business
bad
is not
idea.
going to succeed. Yeah. And then two, if the IRS catches you, you are going to feel terrible, and it's something you can't get out of. So you feel trapped, and that is not a good feeling. And people do desperate things when they feel in desperate situations. So I'm very, very for run your business properly, grow it, make tons of money, pay your taxes, and run it legitimately and take that stress off of you.
Real quick, a customer asked me last week, hey, they're doing a data recovery with us. It was very expensive. Can I pay in cash and get a discount? No, you can't pay in cash and get a discount. Can I pay in cash and not have to pay tax? Dude, we're a legitimate company. Like, I have to pay these regardless. Like, whether you think it needs to be paid, it has to be paid. And quite frankly, you asking these questions make me not want to work with you. So if you're a shop owner, take that approach. It is not worth taking it cash. I have always, since the moment we started our company, I have always paid every penny of our taxes that we had to, and never cut corners. It's just not a smart thing to do. And also, for those that say it doesn't, I make 20% more when I take the cash. That's a stupid way of looking at it, because when you go to get bank funding or any kind of funding and loans, they're going to say, hey, you don't really, your P&Ls aren't looking too good. Your cash flow
Man, and
statements aren't
cash is
looking very great.
dangerous. So companies pay me to go help them with audits, because I have a lot of experience with audits. I actually worked with the Juvenile Justice Center on their annual audits for years. And so companies will come to me that have been, an IRS is doing an audit, and I'll go and work with the auditor. And so what happens is, if they find cash receipts, but they don't find a legitimate cash tracking, they fine you. They slap you with an estimated cash revenue based on your industry. Literally a few years ago, I had a guy who had a roofing company, and he was slapped with a $40,000 fee because they found Walmart purchases made with cash that he said was business, but he said he didn't accept cash. So they said, well, we think based on your industry and the things you've taken by credit card, and you say you've never taken cash, but here you have bought tools with cash, we're going to say you actually have taken cash, and we're going to base it on this number, and we're going to tax you at this amount.
Wow.
Just because they found that. You are playing a very silly game if you think that you can get away from the IRS. They come in and they go through everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They go through everything. And if you are missing, well, I just won't give them my receipts. I had one guy tell me that I don't have anything for that year. Oh, I said, oh, that's not smart at all.
Yeah,
So we went back. I don't have anything. Okay, then we're going to slap you with taxes based on what we assume.
And don't worry, we'll estimate it for you.
They'll estimate it. Oh, yeah, 100%. They'll say, this is what other people are doing in your industry. This is what we're going to assume you did, because you don't have anything for that year. So manage your bookkeeping. And that's another thing the RFA does. We have bookkeeping courses. So I do lives once a month about bookkeeping and different ways to do QuickBooks and all that kind of stuff. So it's another way that we help.
I know I've said this twice, but real quick, I've seen a lot of repair shops that are not handling sales tax properly. What is your opinion on, obviously this varies jurisdiction from jurisdiction, but I have seen a lot of repair shops that do not calculate sales tax by line item repair, meaning, they sell $100 screen replacement, then they're either not charging tax at all on that, or worse, they're charging tax on only the part, but not line iteming it on the receipt.
Yeah, so it depends on where you're located. Sometimes it is allowed. Sometimes you can just tax the part and not the labor, but you need to line item it out on your receipt. And however you do that in your system, you need to track it. And what I find the biggest number one issues is that owners are not saving the tax money. So what they do is they take sales tax, for maybe they're doing every quarter, right? Take all these sales tax, and then at the end they got the huge bill, and like, oh my God, where's all this money going? Well, you collected it all.
Right.
The problem is you need to have a separate savings. So like when I work with a business owner, I make them create multiple banking accounts. One is for this money, one is for that money, one is for sales tax. When you are doing your end of the week, or maybe you do when you do your summaries, and you're looking at your sales and everything, when you see that number and you see that total, and how whenever you do that, some do it daily, some do it weekly, some do it every 2 weeks, some monthly, take that amount of money and put it into that account. And you can actually hide those accounts, because what happens is you look at your bank and you see all these bank accounts, and then you see the sales tax. Oh, wow, there's $8,000 in there. I could use that for something. So what you can do is you can actually hide it in your view, and it's a little mind trick that you can play with yourself, and then just go and look at that quarterly and say, okay, I'm ready to pay the bill, and you'll have the money. That's the biggest issue I see, is shops spending the sales tax money and wondering how they're going to pay it when it's actually due.
See, guys, this is the type of value you get with Repairs First.
Exactly. And bookkeeping, I'll give one more tip. And I know it's a lot, take 20% of every transaction that you do as a business and put it into a checking account. Again, hide it from yourself. At the end of the year, once you file taxes from that account, pay what's ever due. And then the extra is a little bonus to invest in new equipment or something like that. But it's a good number, 20%, because depending on who's the politician or what the legal laws are and the write-offs and all of that, you may have actually do less or more, hopefully not. And so you'll have a little savings built up. So you can you can build this into your POS systems or whatever you're doing, or QuickBooks, to automatically do all of this, but that'll give you a little cushion. And just 20%. I know it seems like it might be a lot, but at the end of the year, you get a little refund and you pay your tax bill, and you don't have to put it into a payment plan, which then kind of spirals out of control.
Super, super pro tip right there.
Mm-hmm.
Nicolle, thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we can do this again some point, and I
would
look
love
forward to Gadget Repair Expo.
Yeah, I'll see you there. You're going to be doing your podcast somehow there, so we can't wait for that.
All right, Nicolle, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again.